Go. Hi, everybody. This is the first go around for my author fireside chats. I have with us today author Heidi Harris. I recently reviewed her Vella Reverse Ella Superheroes of Kaimas. And I am your host, Nathan Wall, author of the currently top fave Vella, The Adventures of Rascal Boy and Marionette. The artwork you can see here. You can find me at www.authornathanwall.com or find me on Twitter talking all sorts of politics and other crap, or on Facebook. And with that, I will let author Heidi Harris introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Heidi Harris, and I write way too much. So if you want to check out my website, it is HeidiHarrisWrites.com. So super easy to find. And my link tree and my Instagram, and if it has it, I probably have it under Heidi Harris Writes. I have around 85 to 86 books published that are already in book format. I have 30 Vellas that are online, and if you don't know what a Vella is, it's on Kindle Vella. It's an affiliate of Amazon. And what you do is you just read it episode by episode. The first 3 chapters are free. For me personally, most of the time, I have 1 chapter is 1 episode, unless it's a really, really small book like my Haley and Astrali. So I might have 2 chapters as an episode there. So I have 14 ongoing right now, and one of them is Reverse Ella. She has a brother named Cinder. So they walk onto this planet. They're walking to this airplane. And here's what happens. The attendant looks at their little ID cards. He's like, wait. Your name's Ella. Your name's Cinder. Cinder, Ella. And he starts laughing because he notices the fairy tale reference. And so I thought, you know what happens if you have a superhero and a fairy tale and we mix them together? We throw an arranged marriage, throw on a different planet, and let's throw in some crazy parents and just see what happens. And that is how that Vella was born.
So let's talk about powers a little bit. Each of the main 4 characters has some sort of power that deals with time. Ella's is pretty straightforward, which would be a very useful power. You stub your toe, you reverse time, it's no longer hurting. You fart in front of somebody you think is really cute, you reverse time, you no longer are stinky, right? But Cinder's is a little more complicated, right? He forwards time. And so I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Click with Adam Sandler, where he has the remote, he's getting bored, his wife is nagging, doesn't want to play with his kids, work sucks. He starts fast forwarding, and then the remote figures out this is what he likes to skip. And it starts doing it automatically. And then all of a sudden he is on autopilot. So it's a little more confusing in the beginning when he fast forwards the plane ride versus episode 14, where he fast forwards their drive, because the fast forward is limited to their car and it just moves faster. So what is he doing when he fast forwards on a plane? Because everybody else on the plane doesn't really recognize that they're fast forwarding, but him and Ella do. And he can't necessarily fast forward them through the plane, because then the plane would like blow up or something. So how does that work? Have you gotten there? Are you still brainstorming it? What do you got?
I am a total panster. I'm making it all up as it happens. So sometimes, like before I started on Vella, I would write something and I'd go back and fix it at the first chapter because I realized, oh, that plot needs to be a little bit more flushed. Right now, I do not. And so I am just going for it. And for Ella, it's a little bit more practical because it kind of happens through the whole world. Link's got a couple questions. So I'll start over a little bit because I get all jumbled. I get excited. But Ella, she reverses time. So whenever she's touching Cinder, he comes with her. Whenever she touches him, she comes with him. And so if they're not touching, it doesn't work. Well, on the counterparts, they get arranged with Amaya and Blink. So first, over here, I got Ella and Cinder, they're twins. They're poor. Then I got Blink and Maya. They are rich. They are over here. They are like the poster children for Treff. And then I got the poor kids from Kaimas.
We'll get back to that poster child comment here in a minute.
Oh, it's so after they find out they have an arranged marriage with these other people that are the poster kids, I thought, you know what? I was writing at 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to throw them on a real poster and put them in their bedroom. because who has not had a poster in their bedroom of something or someone? And so Cinder's like, they can't come to our house because Blink and Amaya are trying to be polite. They got manners. They're like, well, do you want to move in with us? Because we both have our own houses that have giant waterfalls and many extra bedrooms, or would you like us to move in with you? And Blink and Amaya are really nice about it. But Cinder and Ella are like, oh, we shared a bedroom till we were 8. We still have those posters on our walls right now of them. So we can't take them back home to visit ever. It's not happening unless we go beforehand and clean up. And so they're having this little sibling powwow because they're besties. Whereas Blink and Amaya, they kind of fight a little bit. They've been forced together. Whereas Cinder and Ella had like a mother and a father that were a little different. Like their mother actually is a superhero that has lightning bolts coming out of their eyes. So they're kind of sticking together to keep away from her. And then their father has a complicated past. So they have to be together. But Amaya and Blink, they fight about everything to the point where they show off. Blink loves to show off. He loves to take the lead. He loves to be the first, but he'll also take the hit. So, like, we've all had that person in our life that is the show off. They like to shine and things, but do they always take the hit? And that's the thing I like about Blink is he's willing to take one for Amaya. So they go up against the father, and it's just a mess. Amaya gets mad. It's a horrible mess. But Ella's like, "Do you want me to reverse time real quick?" And he's like, "Yes, please." So she does, and she helps him out after they, basically just met each other. And Blink interrupts what's going on, and he steps in for Amaya, and he takes the hit. And he has that older sibling power where they know how to manipulate mom and dad just enough to get where mom and dad thinks it's kind of their idea that things are happening. So Blink pulls a fast one on his dad, and his dad starts blushing the way Blink says it. And so Blink and Maya's father, he has the power to talk through water, and he just he kind of interrupts anything they do. And Cinder gets mad about it. He gets mad on Amaya's behalf because he could see that she's rattled, she's upset, but she isn't going to say anything and stand up for herself. And he said, "You need to stand up to your dad or I will." So she talks to her big brother to, kind of fix things. And they go in it together, and he makes his dad blush. She's like, "What if we're in the middle of an intimate moment, Dad?" He's like, "Oh, oh, oh." He's like, "I won't do that. I'll call you the normie way now, because you're married."
That moment with Cinder was a really good one because towards the end of the 15 episodes you currently have on there, you see the kind of a little journey that Cinder is taking from sort of the laid back to, hey, I'm going to sort of take charge, which is something I really appreciate about Blink, and is one of the things that I think makes a good character is somebody that doesn't just, it's not always reacting. A lot of people, they will write a story and the character is just reacting, things are happening to the character, but Blink makes things happen, right? And towards the end of what you currently have, Cinder starts to make things happen. And I noticed you do a lot of writing from the first person, and so it kind of makes sense that Amaya and Ella are the POV characters. But do you ever find yourself going, "Hey, I'm writing something, this character isn't making enough happen"? I know in one of my stories, Artificial Light is the third book in the Evolution of Angel series. I had this whole thing written out for this character named Kepri out of Egyptian mythology, and all this really cool stuff that he was doing. And I was like, why am I setting up Kepri now just for like a payoff in future books? I need to build up Horus right now because Horus needs to go up against Jared, and I need the reader to like both Jared, who shined in book 1, and Horus, who is kind of having his moment to shine in book 3. Because when they go up against each other, I want the readers not knowing who they want to pull for. So whenever you're writing something, do you consciously go, this character isn't making enough happen?
I wrote the whole entire series for that book around Ella, and I gave her the twin brother Cinder. And I wanted them to be best friends, and I wanted him to be laid back. I wanted him to be able to handle all of Ella's drama. But because I had him doing all that, I needed another character. I needed a strong male character that was going to, Cinder's kind of like the silent defender.
Mhm.
He's the guy in front of the goalie. He's the one that doesn't make a lot of noise. He's not, I played soccer. So he's the guy in front of the goalie that protects them. And he'll step up when he has to, but he doesn't want to have to, but he will. But Blink, he's the sweeper. He's the guy who goes out there. He's like, let's get this over with. Let's let the party go. Let's have the adrenaline. And he defends in a different way by attacking the right way. And so he sees like different ways that you can attack to avoid having to be on the defense.
Mhm.
Because he's used to being the older one. His dad is abrasive, so he has to match his dad's energy just enough to be able to handle life. But Amaya has to handle Blink and her dad. So she's kind of, her job's been picked out for her. Her house has been picked out for her. Everything about her life has been handpicked. She has no choice. And then she's thrown into this marriage with no choice. And she's been like, well, it's just how it is. And Cinder's like, it don't have to be how it is. Things can change. And because he's used to having Ella's back. And she's not had that. She's had Blink walk in front of her and protect her from time to time. But Cinder's coming up from behind to protect her and move her forward, whether she wants to move forward or not.
Mhm.
And so she's put in a different situation that she's never been in. On the flip side, Ella has never been caught off guard. And Blink catches her off guard every moment, every spin, and every idea. And she doesn't have time to digest it. She's used to having to reverse time to think about it.
And now you can't.
Now she can't, because Blink, I gave him a time power for one reason. I wanted Ella not to be able to do that with him. So every time she tries to reverse time, Blink gets caught in her bubble. And so he's like, you don't have to do that for me. He's like, I think that's cute. And he's like, um, and when it first happens, Ella is spouting off and yells at the leaders of Treth and Kaimas. And she just starts yelling at them. And Blink and Amaya are looking at her like she's lost it. Cinder's just like, that's just Ella. And he waits for it. Then she sits down and she reverse time. And Blink stands up. And I love this part. He walks over and sits on the desk. And he's like, how'd you do that? Why don't you tell me more? He's like, can you do that anytime? Because they had no clue what was happening. But because he moves, everything kind of slows down for him. Like I loved clock stoppers. And so like they're moving regularly, but they can see everything slow down. So he sees her reverse time and gets caught in the bubble. And it kind of amuses him. This is like a new toy. Ella's his new toy that has gotten thrown in his, already predictable life. And he wants to learn more. And he thinks it's hilarious. Everything's funny. But Ella is so embarrassed because she's never had to deal with consequences ever. So she's, for the first time in her life, dealing with consequences of her actions. And it's supposed to be with the most important person of your life. And she's like, this is not how this was ever supposed to work. I am supposed to be able to reverse time. And he's like, you don't have to, it'll be fine. And she's like, it's not fine. So
One of the things I enjoyed about Reverse Ella is it seemed that you had a real keen grasp on the world that you were building, the mythos that you had, right? And your four leads seemed like, especially I like the Stone twins, the Stone, not twins, the Stone siblings better than the Zelts, right? But they were well rounded. You had an idea of what they were going to say in any given situation. So the way you read it, you wrote it, it didn't seem like it was out of character. And a lot of times I'll read something and an author is just trying to, um, force development upon a character. And you're like, this does not seem like something that they should say yet. They haven't
uh-huh.
earned it. So do you base your characters off of people that you know and you kind of pick and choose attributes and qualities? I've seen a funny quote. This isn't exactly what it's going to be, but a funny quote online about don't piss an author off because they will kill you in a million different interesting ways. So do you do that? And what is your inspiration for your four leads? And sort of how did you build the mythos of Reverse Ella? Is there a big binder like this big somewhere in your house written out of what is what and who is who?
I love to people watch. So I've been doing that for years. And I've met a lot of people like Blink. They're abrasive, but they're funny and they take the lead. And I've seen them protect. I've seen some men go out there and they take the hit for people. So they go out there and they're funny on purpose because they're taking the hit so somebody else doesn't have to. And so I really wanted to show what a good relationship can be, even if it is a little bit forced. I love the arranged marriages because I don't like those conflicts where people are like, oh, this is a misunderstanding. No, let's throw two rich and poor kids together. Let's throw opposite superpowers together. Let's put somebody that is the business professional with somebody who has no plan for their life. Let's have that kind of conflict because that's the one where it's at. That is something that we recognize at school, we recognize as adults, and I just wanted to throw opposites. So since Ella was used to reversing time, Cinder had to back her up. So he's my slow and steady. I had to have an opposite male lead. He had to be fast as fast could be. And then I had to just kind of work around. I'm like, what kind of sibling is Blink going to have? And I'm like, you know what? Let's throw Stone as their last name because Amaya, let's make her have the hardest stone to treff. So she kind of has that nickname because she's had everything picked out for her. She never had a choice, so she's just trying to do the best job and duck down and be as clear as she can to just have it over with. She's just used to having things a certain way. But for the mythos for this book, I was taking a walk and it was like a 5-10 minute walk, and I came up with Kaimas, I came up with Treff, I came up with the Elnock and the Premiere, and then I came up with Estonia Hall, and it was not a well thought out plan, but it sounded fantastic. So I think I was talking in my voice recorder when I did it. I'm not sure. I do that a lot. I'll go for a walk and I'll talk on my voice recorder, and then I'll go home and type it. And so if I have so many books that I can't sit there and just dramatize, is this the right name? Is that the wrong name or whatever? If I have another idea, I just make a new book. Let's make it simple. So the first idea that pops in my head, I go with it. To the point I was writing a book and my mom read it and she's like, oh my goodness, why did you do that to so and so? And I'm like, who are you talking about? Like, she's talking about it like, Justin was a real person from Pumpkin Spice Romance. I have this incident that happens to him and it just like hits you because I was writing and I'm like, oh, something needs to happen. This will happen. And I throw it in because it needed that extra conflict, but I don't like the interpersonal kind. So I have a lot of other things. So I might have sickness, I might have car crashes, I might have the job, you might lose your job, or you have to move, those kind of conflicts that we can relate to. Those misunderstandings that can be solved with a simple, oh, did you mean this? I don't like those books because I think we can do better as authors. I think we can do better as writers. And I think there's enough people with personality in my life. A lot of times I'll pick 3 personality traits.
Mm-hmm.
And so Blink, older brother. He's a ornery, I guess is the right word for it. He's ornery. He's got that, he wants to rub you the wrong way on purpose because he can. That little bit of, everybody's had that brother or they know somebody who has that brother that rubs you on the wrong way on purpose. And he
Or
does
they
that
are that brother, right?
or they are that brother, yes. Uh, yeah, I've seen that happen to a lot of people, and I've seen that, the Maya that's trying to be straight faced, and then the brother trying to get under your skin. And then I've seen the brothers that back you up. My brother, a lot of times, he'll back me up in a situation, but he expects me to take the hit when it's time to take a hit. And we're in our 30s. And so he'll say, hey, you need to call mom and dad and get this to happen. And I'm like, you are an adult. You have 4 children. It's time to shine. It's your time. He's like, or you could call. So I call still, obviously. So, but I look at people and the family. I love the family aspect. And I just look at about 3 characters and I build the whole entire thing around 3 characteristics. He's the older brother. He's the good guy, and he wants to rub you the wrong way. And so I put all that into a person. I've met a lot of people like that. And then I put, what if he was put in an arranged marriage? What if he liked it and the other one was like, oh, what if his sister was too? And so I write my books by the what if thing. What if this happened? And then I write it. What would happen next? And I just go through for me, my next logical step. Um, some people really like that, and some people think it has a lot of twists and turns, and some people think it's predictable, and it just depends on the book.
No, that
Um,
sounds a little bit like the J.J. Abrams, what's in the mystery box, right? He did a thing after he did The Force Awakens, right? You have the plane crash, but or the ship crash, and what's in the mystery box, right? Well, the mystery box is the reveal of the new bad guy, right? And then the message is in the droid, and the droid has to go elsewhere. And then the droid finally gets there. Well, what's in the mystery box? You open it, and it's another mystery box, right? Each answer is another mystery box. So what you're saying completely makes sense, because some of even though I didn't like the movie The Force Awakens, the principle is still something that a good filmmaker utilizes. Aaron Sorkin, I like to watch a lot of writers and editors and people talk about their craft. Aaron Sorkin says whenever he is getting stumped, he'll go for a drive. He'll listen to his favorite CD. I think he said one time he took 20 showers in one day because he was trying to finish a screenplay. And you said that you go for a walk, right? Where else does your muse strike you? And then sort of how do you get it out into the existence whenever your muse does strike?
well, a lot of times I probably start at least 15 books in the shower. So I'm taking a shower, and it's the only time you have quiet nowadays. Everybody has their phone on, everybody's talking, you're in meetings or you're working, and it's usually quiet in the shower. So your brain just starts thinking. And if I get a really good idea, I'll come out of the shower. It's usually right when you have to be somewhere in 5 minutes. It always is. And so you have no time for your computer and you can't sit down. So I always turn on my phone, I turn on my voice app recording, and I just start talking. And if I'm doing it right, I try 30 seconds at a time because it's easier to type. But sometimes I'm in a hurry, so I just have to do the 2 to 3 minutes and talk it out as quickly as I can. And I talk pretty quick, so I can get somewhere between 2 to 5 chapters out before I actually have to be in the car. If I'm in a hurry to get somewhere, which always are when you have to type. A lot of people are like, "Oh, when I go to sleep, I get this great idea."
Yeah.
I'm usually in the shower, on a walk, but I've had ideas come to me in the car. I've had them while playing with my nieces and nephews. I've had them when I woke up from a dream. I've had them, you name it. I've probably had it. One book I started in college because I missed a character. I have this really long series called the Zell Saga, and the only reason I started one of my books is because I missed a character. I missed his smirky, snarky personality. That his name's John from the Zell Saga, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to write from his point of view, and we're just going to make an adventure. And so I did, and that's the whole reason that book was written, because I missed the character. And so sometimes I decided that I just can't let series end, and so I may as well just own it. If I can't let a series end, um, I can work around that. You just start as many books as you need to, and you can finish books if you can't let a series end. Because I know some authors, they struggle with finishing, and some of that is because they don't want to let the character go. Well, guess what? You're a writer. You don't have to. You can write this to the day you die. Like R.L. Stein said, he had like 210 Goosebump books at one point. And he's like, because I just love to scare kids and I already know how it's going to go. And I just have a bad guy. I have this. And all I have to do is put it into words. Uh, so you don't have to let it go. Just start a new book and finish. I try to finish like one book a month, but I have enough started that it's not like I'm starting from scratch when I finish a book a month.
Your recording tip is something I'm going to actually start to steal, because whenever I think of something, I have to get up on my computer and I write it in the most boring, straightforward way possible. And it's just like, uh, for instance, today's episode that premiered for Rascal Boy and Marionette, episode 30, I wrote back in March, and it was something that I knew I was going to have to write. I had it in my mind. And this one morning I woke up and I was like, the muse is striking. I've got to get it out, but I don't have the time to sit here and write the whole scene. And so it's just very blatant television. This is what's on the TV. This is the voice, and this is how it sounds. And then later, I kind of went back and I made it pretty and flowery and make it sound good. But I'm definitely going to steal the recording. That's a good tip because I can do that anywhere. A lot of my stuff happens in the truck when I'm listening to music, right? And it happens to be like heavy metal or something like that. And I'm just like, yeah, very good fight scene. Rascal Boy's about to rip somebody's arms off, right? Episode 10. You should get there and read it if you haven't read it yet. You mentioned you want to finish one Vella a month. I think you've got something. Goodreads said 130 credited works, but I think you said 80 books and like 30 Vellas. Either way, it's an ungodly amount of work, right, that you are credited with. Ellen Brock said she's an editor and a writer. So many people are going to new works because they are not good enough to finish something that came before. How do you get around that? How do you make sure that you do what Stephen King says? Days the muse strikes and the day you have to grind it out, the reader can't tell the difference, and you are actually finishing your stories. How do you ensure that you do that and everything is just as good as every other day?
Well, that is a very interesting thing. I wrote this book. This is my actual first book I ever wrote. It's not the first one published. So my first one published was the Zell Saga in 2015, and it's about Johnny, and she's on a space adventure. And the whole idea was, what if she was kind of there as a surrogate? So she came from Zell, and she was on Journix, and then she has to go back to Zell and fix everybody's problems. And that is a whole roller coaster of 15 books. So I'm not going to go into that. But that's my first book that I published. But this is the book I decided was never good enough to publish, never should be published. So last year, when I was about to have my first book signing, I decided it's time to suck it up. After I kept on thinking, oh, I sat there with my computer and I went through my presentation because I was doing a workshop too. And I said, well, my first book I ever wrote and never published. And then the more I practiced it, I'm like, why not? Why didn't I never publish it? And I thought, well, the answer is logical. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. That's why you never published it. And I'm like, well, why not? Well, this book is a little different. So this is the only one where I have the chapters are named. And this was before Vella. So I'm like, that's why. That's why not. And I thought, you know what? Suck it up, do it. I will probably end up redoing this cover later because Amazon, when you redo it, you can do everything later. And I do my own cover art. So with the exception of the first 4 books, everything else is me. So I've taken the pictures, I did Clip Studio Paint, I did the artwork, it's me. And so I published this book during the workshop. And my best friend at the time, she drove from Kentucky, and she drove up to Ohio. And she's like, "What took you so long?" I said, "Well, I was publishing a book too." She's like, "Of course you did, Heidi. Of course you did." And I was like, "Well, I wanted to show them how it works." So I showed them the whole process, and I published it. But that book right here took 21 years to write. I don't want to do the math too well because it'll depress me. But my other one, I think it took maybe 15 years to write that one. But I also had books that I published in, 5 days. It was 23,000 words. I got inspiration and God blessed it. And it got published in 5 days from beginning to end. And that included the editing. And that's all I did for 5 days, was write it and publish it. And then that birthed into an 18-book story that is published. And then I have 5 more in Vella and 5 more ideas because I have one person who said, I love that series, just never make it end. So I'm writing it for them and me. And then I decided with this book, I said, well, what happened to his mother? Because they get an envelope in the mail. And in the envelope, it's telling the mother that she has to go to this castle and she has to save the kingdom or whatever. and she just had a kid, and her son says, I will go in your place. And so it's all from his point of view. And he's 16 years old, and he goes on this journey. And so after that, she's like, okay. And so she gives him a ring. It's called the Legend of the Four Rings. She gives him the blue ring, and it turns him invisible. And then he runs into a whole bunch of his mom's friends' kids and nieces and nephews or whatever who also have rings. And so one of them helps them be telepathic. One of them makes, like green stuff grow. And then one is like the light and just all this different stuff. And so
And
that
one
one's
of
from,
them rules them all.
yes, yes. That's a whole nother book. But I decided to write a Vella about Angel Bug, his mom. How did she get there? And so I have that one as the Vella this month that I'm writing. And I get a whole bunch of ideas from all over the place, and I just kind of throw them together, and sometimes I shake them up and throw in a kingdom here and throw in a king or queen there and put in superpowers and telepathic things and dragons, and we all get excited.
So I don't know if it was on the Q&A that you posted on my site or another author interview that you did on YouTube, but you mentioned at the time that you had recently quit your job and now you are full-time writer on Kindle Vella. How's that working out? How do you see the future of Vella compared to traditional publishing or conventional indie publishing? Is it the shiny new toy that is starting to lose its luster, or does it still have hope and promise? So talk about kind of your transition and Kindle Vella and where you see it going.
It is currently the shiny new toy, but they have changed a lot of things since I started in September. And so I am full time. My bills are super cheap, and I'm able to be able to make a living off of that, and it does pay my bills. And it's just its future is I'm a little bit more concerned about. So right now, if you finish a Vella each month, like these right here, they're usually about 7 episodes. I do turn them into books. I throw in some cover art in there in the middle. So there's artwork in here. And they are somewhere around 6,000 words. And I publish these and I turn them into books and I push complete. Well, when I complete this, I get a $50 bonus. I have I got 2 in this series. And I have, let's see, I think 7 in this series right here. So I get $50 for every time I finish one of these a month. But that's going to be solid so far from what I can tell. But the bonuses that you get off the reads, not so much. So right now, what I made in September, the algorithm I went by is not what I'm going by now. And so I'm a little hesitant to see what we get tomorrow because we will find out.
Really?
Tomorrow or the 21st, we will find out. So sorry. I just ruined her whole 24 hours. You're going to be our.
I'm good either way.
But I look at it and I have a certain amount that I set aside for promotion. So on Facebook, I will promote my book and do pay to play games. So when I first started out, I did a lot of free stuff. So, or my advice for a new author is when you join Kindle Vella, go ahead and buy the $17 bundle of tokens right off the bat. You're planning on doing this. And then enter every free game you can, because you go to Facebook, you search up Kindle Vella, you enter the free games. They might say, drop one link, you have one story, and read 3 episodes. So those are the free ones. And you can get your book out there. And what that does is it gets you thumbs up. I mean, you don't have to pay a dime for that. You start getting thumbs up because you're like, oh, I want thumbs up too. So I'll give them thumbs up. So your goal is to get more thumbs up as you go so that it's going to show up on the Kindle basic page. So a lot of my little books like this, when they're a new book each week, it pops up on the new books for the week. And then the thumbs up, I had like this one on the first page of the children's thing for like a couple weeks. Because they had so many thumbs up that they were getting. And then like as you go, do the, drop one link and read 5 episodes. I would never, ever, ever enter anything that is the 1,000 tokens or the 500 tokens when you have one Vella, because you don't have a backlist and not everybody's going to pick up your book. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to hang out in the 5 episode section. That's going to be your where you're at. You might want to do they have a story stash, and you will drop a link and they'll like read 4 episodes. So if you do that right and you read the 3 free ones and do the one that's paid, then you might spend 100 tokens or so. But that is, I wouldn't do that until you have at least 4 episodes. That one might pay off if you put new, like a headline, new Vella. But you want to stay away from anything big, like 100 tokens. You really don't want that until you have 100 tokens for somebody to buy. So it's best to stay in everything low.
Real quick, I feel like the end story $50 hack is something that is probably going to be abused now that you have spoken it out loud. Is it story complete for a season and you start a new season in the same Vella, or is it once that Vella is done, it's done, you can't touch it again?
Once it's done, you're not supposed to touch it again. You can edit, like, I had a couple of them. I
But
had
if you
one
want
that,
to do if you want to do subsequent seasons in the same Villa, you can't get the $50 bonus.
right, correct.
All right.
So for my captured, I went ahead and did a season 2 for Resistance. I did not get a bonus for that, but that book has 107. It has a 99 for one and then like 8 of the other. So that book is more profitable for me to do a season 2 than it is to push complete for the Vella.
We got just over 2 minutes left. Anything else you want to say or add or ask?
Yeah, if you are an author and you want to write, or you're somebody interested in Kindle Vella, write 600 words, get you a cover art, go to a free site, hand draw it on paint, take a picture of a random tree and throw it on a JPEG and just start writing 600 words a day. Most people can manage that. And then at the end of the month, you will have 30 episodes because it's not February.
If they could pick up one Vella of yours, what Vella would you want them to pick up?
I would say it depends on their personality. Honestly, I really do love Reversella. I love that book, but it's not finished. Captured is longer. A Mistaken Brother will make you cry. This one is just a sweet, quick read. So if you want to be read through in a day, it's Vikings Valor. It depends on the personality you have. I love the Portals of Zagora, but it's not done either. Love that
one. One more time, how can people find you?
I'm on www.HeidiHarrisWrites.com. So if you want to look up Heidi Harris Writes on anything, you will find me. I have the link tree, I have Instagram, I have TikTok, I have Lemonade, I have Goodreads. All my information's all there. Just type in Heidi Harris and you will see my beautiful face somewhere and be able to click on a link on page 1 of Google. I worked really hard to figure that out.
Well, that's it. Thanks for joining me. I am Nathan Wall. You can find me at authornathanwall.com. Like I said, I am currently I am the author of the currently top fave Vella, The Adventures of Rascal Boy and Marionette. Please check it out. I have my review of Reverse Ella on Goodreads and on my website. There's also a nice little Q&A that Heidi was good enough to fill out for me. And then later this week, I will be posting my review of Squared Circle by Stephen Sear. I hope I'm not butchering that last name, but hopefully you will check that out and you will check out his Vella as well as mine. And thank you. And I hope to see you all again.